In today's video, I have a wide variety of super easy meal prep. What is up, you guys? My name is Kira if you are new, and like I said, I have a wide variety of super easy meal prep to share with you guys. I don't know about you, but meal prep for me is key. We have two people who work outside of the home, and then the rest of us who are still constantly on the go and always involved in doing things, that having food that's easily accessible and tangible and prepared for us for really any meal of the day, then that just makes our days go so much smoother. So I have a lot of things to share with you and a bunch of new recipes that I've never shared before. So I'm not going to waste my time on a super long intro. I'm just going to take you down to the counter and we're going to meal prep together. So for our first recipe, we're making a little bit of a snack, which is a derivative of a snack that I've cooked a bunch of times before. I'm just using some different ingredients that I have on hand. So I have some ranch seasoning mix, some olive oil, some chipotle chili pepper, and then some leftover Knorr vegetable soup mix, like what you would use to make a vegetable dip. So I just added that leftover half a packet, a couple of tablespoons of ranch mix, a teaspoon of that chipotle pepper mix, and a quarter cup of olive oil, and then stirred everything together. And now you're just going to go ahead and put that on a baking sheet with some parchment paper, and you're going to bake it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes at 375 degrees. And the crackers are just going to end up toasting up to be like a homemade goldfish, but with way more flavor. I loved the addition of adding the little bit of the vegetable soup mix to it because it really gave it like a nice tang, and then that chipotle pepper just brings in a tiny bit of heat. You can omit that seasoning if you don't want any spice at all, but I love a little bit of heat, and they're so simple to make that you can do it while watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy. And I just put them in a sealed jar, and they hold for probably a month if you didn't eat them right away. Now, something that I wanted to use up that I didn't use right away were veggies that I had left over in my veggie drawer. Now, some of these are from Every Plate for dishes that I didn't make, or veggies that I bought for myself that I just never made, and no reason for veggies to go to waste. So I have a zucchini cut up into half moon shapes. I have some carrots here. I have some Brussels sprouts cut in half, and then I have a little bit of some red onion here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this on a baking sheet, and we're going to season this up a little bit and roast it in the oven. So when you put veggies like this on a baking sheet, especially when you're doing things like onion, I like to use my hands and make sure that I separate everything and everything gets an even and equal distribution in the pan, because once that happens, I'm going to go ahead and add some olive oil. I'm going to add some salt and pepper, and then I also have this Cuban style citrusy garlic flavor from Trader Joe's that went perfect on these veggies. So I went ahead and threw them in the oven at 400 degrees. The higher temperature is better for roasting veggies. You just got to make sure to keep an eye on it, because this can vary from anywhere between 12 to 15 minutes depending on how hot your oven runs. But once they're done being roasted, I just went ahead and threw them in a Tupperware, and I put them in the fridge. No one else will eat them but me, but I picked on them all week. All right, something that is not for me and for everybody else is making some Rice Krispie treats. Now, Rice Krispie treats can be made from any kind of cereal. It doesn't have to be Rice Krispies. As long as you have mini marshmallows and butter, you can mix it with any kind of cereal, and it works best with cereal that you have that's starting to go stale, because once it's starting to go stale, you're not going to eat it as cereal, but you can eat it as a Rice Krispie treat. And I had some Cocoa Puffs here that we had had for a while. Jake just never ate them, so instead of tossing them out, I said, all right, let's try and repurpose them and turn them into some Rice Krispie treats. So I took a half a stick of butter and then that entire package of mini marshmallows, and I put it in the microwave on 30-second intervals until I saw that the marshmallows and the butter had completely melted. And once I saw that, I just dumped in all of those Cocoa Puffs. I knew that if I didn't use them for for this recipe. I wasn't going to use them for anything else. So I dumped them all in there, and you're just going to keep stirring until all of the butter and all of the marshmallows are incorporated into that cereal. And then you're going to put them in a lined parchment papered pan. I did spray the pan down with a little bit of cooking spray just to make sure that they did not stick once that they chilled. And then now add whatever toppings that you want. I added a little bit of chocolate sprinkles. I added some chocolate chips, and then I put it in the fridge and I let it set. And once it was done setting, I just cut it up into little pieces and I put it in a Tupperware, and everybody picked on it as a snack for the week. This works out great during back to school time because you can make a whole sheet pan like this, portion them out, put them into little snack baggies, and then you'll have a easy grabbable snack for the kids for their lunch boxes or after school snacks. Now, making snacks and our house staples is some of my favorite parts of our weekly meal prep because I know how important that doing these things are. Help with curbing hunger or having something easily accessible for my kids during the week for them to eat. And hard-boiled eggs is one of them, and my Instant Pot is my favorite way to cook them. So I just put a cup of water into my Instant Pot, and then I stack my eggs onto a trivet. I usually do about a dozen or so at a time, and I like to do the 5-5-5 method, which is keeping them under pressure, high pressure for 5 minutes, and then you're going to let them slow release for 5 minutes, and then you're going to take them out and put them in an ice bath for 5 minutes. Sometimes they are seamless and they will come out perfect. They fall right out of the shell, and you can tell how easy it was to do your eggs in the Instant Pot and have instant beautiful looking hard-boiled eggs. And then sometimes they seriously just don't work for me. And this particular time, I don't know what it was, but it was pretty much a 50-50 shot. Half of my eggs looked pretty and something I would present like for deviled eggs or something, and then the other ones were ones I knew were just going to get eaten or used for egg salad. But once I was done peeling them and washing them, I stuck them in a Tupperware container and into the fridge they went for snacking. Speaking of snacking, here's another snack that I wanted to make for my kids, and I had seen it on Pinterest, and once I saw the idea, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do because I know how much that my kids love bananas, and then the idea of the peanut butter and chocolate on a frozen pop was just something I used to do when I was a kid. So I have 4 bananas that are starting to turn here, and then I have some sticks that I use to make chocolate lollipops. I have some sugar-free chocolate chips here that we're going to melt, and then some peanut butter. So I'm actually just going to start off by taking the top off the peanut butter and throwing it in the microwave. I put it in for 1 minute, and once I stirred it, I knew that it was like a pourable consistency, and then I went ahead and peeled my bananas. Now, I will tell you, I'm not sure if it's banana season or not, but these bananas were huge, and I think that if I were to do this again, I definitely would cut them in half or do mini pops instead of large bananas. Pinterest showed large bananas, but obviously not everything that Pinterest says is the right way to go, because I tried to put it into the melted peanut butter and it was so big it didn't even go in half the jar. So I cut the tops off, and then I tried my best to still do what Pinterest said, which was stick the stick in the banana and then dunk it in the melted peanut butter, and it just didn't work like that. It's too heavy, so you couldn't pull it out. I ended up just doing what I thought was best and just kind of taking the liquid peanut butter and just using it on the parchment paper with a knife and a spoon to just keep spooning and almost frosting the bananas with the peanut butter. It did work out fine. I mean, it seemed to work out that way. I wish I could have done it the way that Pinterest showed, because it would have been just so much easier just to dunk them in there. I think maybe I'll use hardier sticks, like actual popsicle sticks or tongue depressors next time, as opposed to like using the sticks that I use for chocolate molds. But once I got both sides covered in peanut butter, I stuck them in the freezer until they were hard and frozen enough for what I thought would give me the stability to at least now coat them in chocolate the way that Pinterest showed with just dunking them in the cup. So I melted all those chocolate chips, or at least half of them, in the microwave, and then I picked up the frozen banana and I tried to do the same thing, and I just right away I knew it wasn't going to work. So I ended up going ahead and doing the same thing, just kind of frosting the banana banana, which my OCD, that killed me because they didn't look as glossy and shiny and pretty as the ones on Pinterest, because the ones on Pinterest were dunked and looked beautiful and seamless and amazing. And that's not what happened. This definitely, like I said, took a little bit more time because it would have been so much easier just to dunk it. But at the end of the day, it still worked. And the idea of being able to do this, honestly, with any kind of fruit, or being able to do it with Nutella, or if you have a peanut butter allergy, you can do this with any kind of non-nut butter, like the sun butter or anything like that, and still be able to give your kids this kind of feel. And I also thought about, since we use the sugar-free chocolate, this could be a breakfast for my kids. I mean, it's a full banana, it's peanut butter, and it's sugar-free chocolate. So if you have a child that you just can't get breakfast into, maybe this is a solution for back to school, because they're going to think that they're getting ice cream for breakfast. Mason has been eating this as a dessert, and I would prefer him to have this over ice cream, but they're huge. Each time he couldn't even finish one in a sitting. So I know to make them smaller for next time, but this, you guys, was a huge hit. I mean, it's nothing but peanut butter, banana, and chocolate, but my kids were over the moon about it, and something that you can get them involved in doing this summer if it's something that you guys want to try. All right, something that my husband had requested was, he had asked for something apple-y. He didn't really know what he wanted, but he wanted something apple turnover-ish. So I ended up getting the Lucky Leaf caramel apple filling. I've used it before, and it's fantastic. And I had 2 different crescent roll containers already in the refrigerator, one from Trader Joe's, one from Walmart, and then I always have this container of cinnamon and sugar on hand. So between all of those ingredients plus the butter, I knew that I was going to be able to pull together these apple turnovers for Daryl. And even after baking them up, they turned out better than I had imagined, because I even added frosting at the end, and then, you guys, throwing it in the air fryer was the ticket. But we'll get to that in just a second. Let's start off by getting these assembled. So being that I had 2 packages of croissant rolls, instead of making them mini, I just did normal size apple turnovers, but that means that you have to stick 2 of the croissants together. So just make sure that your hands are good and washed before you dive in here, because you're really going to have to work your seams, and sometimes these will pop open. You will have to keep working throughout the time to reseal the seams, because they're not meant to go back together. But I did take half of that can of the caramel apple filling and dice it up in a bowl, because it's big, huge apple pieces, and I did 4 at a time. It was just easier to work on the sheet pan like that. So once I sealed 8 of them, 1 whole can together, I filled the apple filling, and then now it was time to come back and fold. You can do a turnover any which way. You can do it in a triangle or a square. I like to pull all 4 of my sides in and then seal the seams, and then you'll see when they bake up that they open a little bit where it's perforated, but they still hold together enough that all of your filling stays inside. So you can really do whatever it is that you want to do, but once you get them sealed, you want to flip it over so that all of your seams and stuff are on the bottom, and the pan's going to do its best to kind of hold everything together. And then I melted a few tablespoons of butter and used a basting brush, and then basted all of the croissants with this melted butter, which the flavor that ended up creating was just phenomenal, because these were already butter flavored croissants, but you're giving it this wet coating of melted butter, and then you're going to sprinkle it with cinnamon and sugar. And in that container, it's like 5 to 1. So 1 part of cinnamon and then 4 parts sugar. And then you're going to bake them in the oven for the directions that it says on the croissant rolls, but for double the time. And even though they looked cooked through, I ended up throwing them in the air fryer when I was done with them. So I had a little bit of frosting left over from Maya's birthday cupcakes. So I ended up melting the frosting and using a butter knife and just drizzling them. And then after we ate them, they were good, but they still were a little bit doughy. So I ended up sticking them in the air fryer, and they became flaky and delicious and so good. We had a couple of leftovers, so I froze them so that Jake can try some when he gets home, or we can have them in the future. But those apple turnovers were just to die for. All right, now we're on to doing bacon meal prep. And whenever I do any kind of meal prep, I usually include bacon because I like to have a pound of bacon just cooked in the refrigerator for us to use for sandwich toppings, burger toppings. I mean, really, it's endless. I use a lot of it for lunches, but this time we're going to use all of this bacon. So we prepped it to use it for recipes that I'm going to share with you. So I like to cook it in a sheet pan because I like to have all of the grease that's left over, and I needed it good and crispy. Sometimes I'll undercook it a little bit more at that 12-minute marker at 375 just so that it's pliable and I can still use it for other recipes. And then sometimes I'll do a full 20 minutes to get it crispy. I always pack it in a Tupperware with a little bit of paper towel to absorb any additional grease. And then this little bacon bin was given to me by a friend for a birthday gift, but it's linked in my Amazon store and it is perfect for storing bacon grease. So all those are in the fridge, put away for when we're going to use them. And now is when we're going to use a portion of it. So I have my cast iron skillet here and it is lubed up with some olive oil ready to go. And then we have these Ore-Ida golden crispy crowns. You need the crowns. You want the ones that are round and circular, not a rectangle one that stands up. And we're going to start off with this part first. I have the oven set to 425 degrees, and now we're going to go ahead and take these crispy crowns and we're going to line the bottom of the pan. So this took a little bit of time, probably 5 minutes or so, for me to really navigate the tater tots to where they made a full covering as much as they could. I mean, they are round, so it's kind of hard to put round things together and make sure that they're seamless, but I just kept working it and finding tater tots that were different sizes so that I can build up the walls and make sure that the bottom is filled the best as possible. And then we're going to go ahead now and stick that in the oven and just bake the tater tots. We want a nice crispy crust. So now once this comes out and it has a crispy crust, we're going to add our toppings. So I have a pound of ground sausage here. I have some of that bacon, 3/4 of a cup that we cooked crumbled up. I have 6 eggs and a half a cup of milk already scrambled in a pan. And then I have some shredded cheese in a bag. And now we're just going to go ahead and layer, but first we're going to mash down with a potato masher our tater tots. You just want to flatten them a little bit so that they cover as much of the bottom as they possibly can. But now we're going to add a layer of cheese, and this is very important. You want to make sure to get a nice even coating of that cheese, even have it come up the sides a little bit, because when that cheese melts, it's going to hold together your tater tots. And then once you've done that, now it's just time to layer. So first I added the ground sausage, and then I went back and added the scrambled eggs. You want to make sure to have them good and chopped so that you can spread all 6 eggs out and over. I thought I was going to have leftovers of things, but I did not. Once I got in and started scooping everything, there was more than enough room. Once you're done with the eggs, you're going to put another layer of cheese on top. Again, push it all to the side so that it gets to those tater tots that are around the edges, and then put on your bacon. That's it. Look how stinking phenomenal that is inside of a cast iron skillet, you guys. And then you stick it in the oven and you bake it for as long as you want. Really, the cheese just has to melt. Keep an eye on it. Do you see my Oliver in the background? I am so happy to see him down here. And that's it, you guys. Look how delicious that looked. And the crust, and you can see the cheese melting inside of those tater tots, and then the sausage with the egg and cheese. This was so good. We all had a piece. And then I cut the leftover wedges, and I froze them in the freezer. And I know that Jake is going to dig them. As soon as he comes home and tastes it, he's going to love it because it's all the things that he loves. And this is something that I can make super easy and freeze all of the pieces and then just pull it on a back to school morning where we can eat that for breakfast. And that would be awesome. All right, speaking of awesome, I love to make croutons. If I don't burn them, then it's one of my favorite things to share with you guys in a meal prep video. If I'm not making dressing for you in a meal prep video, then I'm usually making croutons. And so I have some Parmesan cheese here and this Gourmet Garden parsley. I love all these fresh herbs that are coming in that little container that I get from Target. Love them, you guys. Some of that bacon grease, some olive oil, some of the crushed garlic, and some butter. And and then I have a baguette here. This is one from Walmart, which was pretty good. Usually I get my baguette from Trader Joe's, but this was spot on. And then you're just going to cut it into cubes, whatever sizes that you want. I usually just cut the bread into strips, and then I just go back and cut little cubes. It's good to have all different sizes of croutons anyways. And once your bread is all cut up, go ahead and add it to a bowl, and then now let's make our topping. So I added about a tablespoon and a half of butter, 3 of those cloves of fresh garlic, under a quarter cup of bacon grease, and then a quarter cup of olive oil. And then once I mixed all of that together, then I just poured it over our chunks of bread. I added a few shakes of Parmesan cheese and a good couple of pinches of parsley. And then once I mixed all of that together, then I just went ahead and put that on a sheet pan where the bacon cooked preferably, and put it in the oven, you guys, 400 degrees for about 15-20 minutes. Keep an eye on it. But once you see they're done and crispy and not burned, then off into a ball jar that it goes. This filled my ball jar, and then I had enough to put it in a little Tupperware, but these will keep for a while in the pantry, and we love it on salads. So definitely make your own croutons if you have the time. And now we're going to finish with something that you should definitely make if you have the time. So we're back to peanut butter and banana, but now there's the rest of the bacon that we cooked up and some egg roll wrappers, and we're going to make an Elvis. I saw this on Pinterest too, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is almost breakfast. Also, I mean, it's a fried egg roll, but I mean, this could be breakfast too. Peanut butter, banana, bacon, and an egg roll. I mean, how do you go wrong? So I poured about a cup and a half of oil into a pan where it's deep enough that we could fry, and then I put that on about medium to high heat. And then now we're going to go ahead and prep our egg rolls. So we're going to put a smear of peanut butter, a piece of bacon, 2 to 3 slices of our banana, and then we're going to fold up our egg rolls. So you're going to fold it like you used to fold a piece of paper when you were younger into an envelope. So once you have your ingredients, you're going to fold in your corners so that nothing leaks out, and then you're going to keep rolling and tight rolling until you have a little egg roll. And once your oil reaches temperature, then that's it. We're going to drop them in the oil. They only need about a minute on each side. Keep an eye on them. Nobody wants a burnt egg roll, but I just went ahead and prepped all of these. I made about a dozen with the 2 bananas, the peanut butter that I had, and the bacon pieces that I had left. But once I was done frying them, I have to be honest with you guys, I could not wait to dive in. All of my family loves the crispy crunch of an egg roll, but they also love all the ingredients that I was putting inside of here. So I couldn't wait to taste the inside, and let me tell you how good that this was. The banana was warm and the peanut butter was warm, but the bacon only gave a smoky flavor. Like, you really couldn't taste the bacon as much, but the peanut butter and the banana made a sweetness, and then the bacon added a little bit of salty smokiness. Holy cow, Elvis, you knew what you were talking about when you were eating these dynamite egg rolls. I froze the rest of them, and we're going to use them for a little bit more breakfast meal prep or some desserts when the kids want them. But this was definitely something that I was really excited to try, and it turned out amazing. All right, you guys, so that's it for today's meal prep video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite item was that we meal prepped today. I think for me, it was that Tater Tot bacon, sausage, egg, and cheese casserole. That thing was so fantastic, and we've even had one of the reheated pieces, and I think it reheated even better than it did coming right out of the skillet. So that would be my vote, but if it were to be my kids, I think Mason would vote for that chocolate peanut butter banana. He told me I need to open up a cafe just to sell different flavors of these frozen bananas, and then he even came back to me and said, oh, what if we did that with apples and pears? And like, now his mind is just going, and that is my 7-year-old who is thinking of different flavor combinations because he enjoyed what we prepared so much. So make sure you let me know what you liked down below. Subscribe if you are new. I love you guys all so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.